Welcome to the Headwaters Science Center 330 show. I'm Spencer Potter, and today we're going to be talking about ice safety. It's that time of year again where fishermen are going out for pleasure and for food. And something to remember is safety. We want to have fun while being safe. I love fishing, and a lot of my family and friends love fishing. But one thing that we always try to remember is it safe or is it not? And how do we know? And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. When is ice safe to walk on, drive on? When is it safe to drive heavier things on the ice? What could possibly affect those ice conditions? And what to do if you actually do end up falling through the ice. So a few props that I have on my table are your standard ice fishing rod, light rod. This is no specific rod. I just found it in my garage. It does have one of my favorite jigs on it, a little glow-in-the-dark ghost thing, and a tip up. And a tip up, use those. You can set them up. Put your flag down. When a fish pulls on your line, flag goes up. You know it's game time. All right, and ice picks. I'll get into these a little bit more when we talk about what happens when you do fall in. These are something that are like 10 or 5 to 10 bucks, and super helpful if you ever do happen to fall in the ice. So, ice thickness. Obviously, ice isn't always the same thickness. Ice freezes from the top down. If ice froze from the bottom up, we wouldn't have any fish. So ice freezes from the top down. The general rule is about 4 inches is safe enough for foot traffic. So under 4 inches, stay off. Don't try. 4 inches for foot traffic. 5 to 7 inches for four-wheeler and snowmobile traffic. 8 to 12 inches for a small vehicle car. And 12 to 15 inches thick, so like this big, for a truck, small truck. That doesn't mean the whole lake is always going to be, if you check one spot and it's 4.5 inches, that does not mean the entire lake is going to be 4.5 inches. So that's why it's important to know the lake, know the conditions that you're going out in, and possibly what was the forecast the week before? Did we get a ton of snow? Was it super warm? All of those good things. Some things that can affect ice quality is obvious temperature. Was it hot last week? Did it thaw out? Is it frozen again? New ice is always going to be stronger than old ice. So when I say new ice, I mean the clear ice that is just formed. That is always stronger than ice that has thawed out and then refrozen. The amount of snow on the lake, because obviously the snow adds to the overall weight on the lake, pressure on the ice. So that can affect the ice, how much weight you could put on the ice. Snow also is a great insulator, surprisingly enough. Snow is a great insulator. It traps a lot of air, so you can develop a layer of slush underneath a heavy snowpack, where you're not going to actually get a solid freeze down after that. Along with being a struggle to get even past that slush with fishing gear and all that, there's possibilities that the ice isn't going to be very strong underneath that. Also, the depth of the lake. Lakes have currents going through them, even though that they don't seem like they're actually moving. Temperatures and water is cycling from hot to cold. And depending on how deep that lake is, the currents could be possibly warmer because in the winter there's it's the temperature is lower in the lake. Say, uh, you know, they don't change as much. So if you have a deep lake, you have more water to cool down. So if that warm water is cycling up to the surface, then you probably could have thinner ice or even open spots, which is obviously you don't want to go through open spots. What that open spots means there's just no ice. Um, Other thing is going to be like size, depth, water chemistry. So water chemistry is like if you're by a heavily used highway or a city or town that salts heavily, that salt is going to be run off into the lakes. If you know anything about salt water reduces the freezing point of water. So that's why we use it, and it does a great job at keeping our roads safe. But the after effect, it does affect our plants and animals and lakes and rivers, even to the point where it can affect the ice quality. And currents. So like rivers are constantly flowing, and the ice thickness can change from week to week. Even you could have a 6 inches one week, and then you come the next week, currents shift, change, pick up, and all of a sudden you only have 2 inches there. So always, especially when you're on rivers, take extra caution, checking every so often to make sure that the ice is the appropriate thickness. And then, let's see, yeah, then just overall climate conditions. Was it a warm winter, even the whole winter itself? Did you have good winter? Was it frozen right away? Did it freeze right away and then have a ton of snow on it before it was able to freeze thick enough to support that weight? All those things are something that to take into consideration of ice quality.
Then this is something you can usually find information on too. You don't necessarily have to go out there and start punching holes yourself to immediately know how thick ice is. Usually you can find some source somewhere that'll give you
talk to wherever you're getting your bait from. Talk to local gas stations. They typically, whoever's selling you bait typically has knowledge about local lakes and rivers, so those are good sources to talk to before you're going out. Important thing that I said earlier was to know your lake, know the body of water. Springs can affect the lakes and rivers ice quality. Also, the DNR does not measure ice thickness on lakes around here. So it is your responsibility to make sure that you know the risks and what you're getting yourself into, really. So even after we took all the precautions that we just talked about, we understood the weather. We understood that we didn't think there was any currents. The ice was definitely thick enough for us, and we went out anyway. We went out. We were safe, and all of a sudden we fall in. What do we do if we fall in? So the initial thing that's going to happen to your body is you're going to go into a little bit of shock. Typically around 1 to 2 minutes of your body is going to be gasping for air, hyperventilating, and you're going to be disoriented. The best thing that you can do in this period of time is make sure that your head stays above the water. And like I said, you're going to be hyperventilating. So it is going to be important that your head's over water, because just because your head's underwater doesn't mean that you're not going to continue to hyperventilate, which would be bad because we don't breathe water. We're going to need to keep our head above water and try to remain calm, even though that sounds crazy. Being calm is one of the best things you can do in a situation like this. Try to find your orientation. So the first few minutes, try to get your hyperventilation under control. The next parts are going to be trying to get out. So you don't want to just continue to crawl forward or on the path that you were when you fell in. You want to turn around, find the direction that you came in, and attempt to get out that way. If you don't have picks, the best thing that you can do is just try to reach up, grab anything that you can, kick your feet. Once you're on top of the ice, roll away from the crack or hole that you just fell in. It's important that you roll away because your weight's more distributed when you roll than if you were to stand up. So let's go back to these things that I have around my neck. These are called ice picks. These are $5 to $10, and they make crawling out of ice way easier. Ice is slippery, so if you could imagine, you are floating in the water. Ice is about right here. You have to try to crawl and kick your way up. If you do not have these ice picks, you don't have much traction. Gription. I say that word all the time. But with these spikes, they come with grips and a small metal peg that conveniently connect together. You just keep them around your neck and climb out. You can see that it doesn't take up much space on my body. I barely know that they're there, and they can still help me stay alive. When you're in the water, don't try to take off any of your clothing. Some people think that, oh, it's going to weigh me down. But actually, a lot of the snowmobile gear, ice fishing gear, snowsuits actually help keep air in and might help keep you afloat. Once you are out of the water, keep those clothes on until you can get to somewhere warm. If you have the option to change out into warm clothes, obviously do that right away. But having those clothes on, the wet clothes, even is better than running around without clothes on. Okay? Important thing, once you get to a warm, safe area, drink some warm fluids. You gotta bring your body temperature back up to speed. Try to avoid alcoholic drinks and caffeinated drinks. They don't help your body regain heat, I guess.
Restricts blood flow.
Yeah, restricts blood flow.
Keeps your extremities from reheating, basically.
So, we've talked about the preventative, knowing when ice is safe. We talked about what to do if you went in. The other thing is what to do if you see someone that's in the water. The DNR recommend and Minnesota's ice rescue teams recommend a process called preach, reach, throw, row, go. And I'll kind of walk you through these steps. So the first step is basically identify that victim. Say, hey, I'm over here. Start swimming this way. Let them know a direction. Because they're going to be disoriented. They're going to be hyperventilating. They're going to be panicking. Help reassure them. Say, hey, we're going to help. We're going to get you out of there. Help is on the way. Make sure you identify the authorities. Say, hey, 911. We got a guy in the ice at such and such lake at this boat landing or wherever you are. Try to give as best location as you can. Sometimes you're in the middle of the lake. So try to give out as best descriptive of the area as you can. All right. Once you've done that, then help. You don't want to reach in and grab the victim. That victim fell through the ice, so that must mean the ice is thin. So you're going to want to find something that you can help throw to them. So that could be even a throwable life throwable life preserver, a life jacket, a rope. Those are all good things to try to throw to that victim. Um, then the next thing is going to be if it's too far out and you have access to a boat, a something like that, you could possibly use that boat, and with 1 foot on, 1 foot out, you could push your way out to that area. So if the ice did crack when you got to that spot, you'd be in the boat. And then if you are able to get them out of the ice, try to get them into warm or dry clothes and into a warmer area, and again start pushing those warm fluids, non-alcoholic, non-caffeinated fluids. Some general other safety tips are going to be if you're driving on the ice in a vehicle or a truck, have your windows rolled down. Once you fall through the ice in your vehicle, your vehicle's going to be under a lot of pressure. With that pressure, you're not going to be able to open the doors. So, if you have your windows down, you're able to exit the vehicle quicker. Generally, people say wear life jackets on the ice. That's a different case when you are in a vehicle. That life jacket could be cumbersome and actually restrict your movement out the vehicle. So, don't wear a life jacket in a vehicle when you're driving on the ice, and have your windows down when driving on the ice. Crank up the heat. It will be worth it in the end.
What about seatbelts?
Oh yeah, don't wear seatbelts. Again, the whole premise of getting out quickly, having your windows down. Don't wear your seatbelts, and that's okay. There's no law that says you have to wear a seatbelt on the lake. Here's some statistics from the DNR website. On average, from 2016 to 2021, we averaged about 3.6 deaths per winter. So those things could possibly have been preventable. They're all different ages and times a year that they actually went in. One thing that I thought was surprising when I was looking at the statistics, that a lot of these deaths were in January. And if you are familiar with the Minnesota area, in January, that's typically our coldest season, coldest month. And I think that the thing that came to my head was maybe gave out some false confidence in people, that thinking like, oh, it's been -10 for a week, so these lakes got to be a billion feet thick. Well, again, you got to take into consideration the currents of the lake and the weight on the lake itself, and being orientated on the lake. Here in Bemidji, last year a pickup truck went through Lake Irving, and the driver thought that they were driving in the other direction and actually ended up driving too close to a river. Unfortunately, they didn't make it, which could have possibly been prevented if that individual was orientated. Here's some other statistics. Is 77% of the deaths, ice-related drownings deaths, are on snowmobiles and ATVs, and only 2% is due to foot traffic. So what it seems like is people are being cautious right away, but maybe getting out there a little bit too early, or being too risky with ATVs and snowmobiles. Any questions from the audience?
Nothing coming out. I guess one thing you touched on, I think we touched on one of these shows a while ago, was the salt in the lakes causing the freezing temperature to lower. And so I think we did like a whole show on that. I think I did this as a show maybe 6-7 months ago, where we did like a kind of multi-day thing where we did like a bottle of salty water and a bottle of RO water and tested them in our freezer at like different temperatures. So we might have a video on this somewhere if that sounds interesting to you. And you know, we did see a difference there between our unsalted and our salted water as far as how much and how quickly it froze.
Yep. Some random information about salt water and salinity concentrations. Researchers have been finding different current patterns closer to the Antarctica or glacier ice shelf because of the melting. There's a less salinity in that water around the North Pole or Antarctica and those areas, and that is affecting or could possibly be affecting different currents just because they have different densities. Well, be safe out there, have fun. Remember, fishing is all about having fun, and be respectful to other fishermen and the wildlife. I'll see you guys next week. If you want to come on down and ask us about ice safety or any fishing related questions, stop by the Headwaters Science Center downtown Bemidji, Monday through Saturday, 9:30 to 5, and then swing by after lunch on Sunday, in between 1 and 5.